And today I want to talk a little bit about how I became a project manager and why, if that's something you're interested in, you should really explore it as well. I strongly advocate for project management as a really solid career choice because I feel like anyone could technically do it. Now, that's not to say that being a project manager is easy or that you can just jump in and become a great project manager tomorrow without any experience. But unlike a lot of other great jobs, especially jobs that pay well, project management is one of those fields where you don't necessarily need a specific degree or any particular type of education. It's something that even through experience and hard work, you can become great at. I say this because that's exactly what my journey looked like. And today I want to talk a little bit about how I became a project manager and why, if that's something you're interested in, you should really explore it as well. My career doesn't necessarily look like a normal tech career or a career that a lot of the people in the tech industry generally follow. But that's not to say that it's super unconventional. I went to a four-year college, I went to Rutgers University, and I studied journalism as well as history, which honestly was a great way to become unemployed and to never get a job. Fortunately, I was able to find a job in marketing, and so that's what I did for the first year and a half out of college. This isn't really something I was personally interested in, but it was a job nonetheless, and this was around the time that we were going through not a great economy, so I was just grateful to get a job, and it was something that I was doing. I learned a little bit, but honestly, I think the biggest thing that I took away from this opportunity was just understanding how to work in an office environment, because as a newly graduated college student, they don't really teach you that. Because I was by far the youngest person in this company, they assumed that I would be a social media savant, so they put me on the social media team, which basically meant myself. And I was managing a lot of their social media accounts. And there was this B2C app that they were developing that I was, for some reason, put in charge of being the project manager for. This was really my first experience in the project management realm, as well as, I guess, the tech realm as well. Thinking back to the time that I worked on this project, I was honestly probably the client from hell that all PMs are terrified of. That's not to say I was a jerk, or at least I don't think I was, but I didn't know what I was doing. And that meant I would give random deadlines to my agency partner. I wasn't able to follow up on deliverables and things that I needed to get done. And I just didn't have the experience or the information or knowledge or really anything that was needed to be someone successful in that particular role. The project, unsurprisingly, got delayed for months and almost a year, I think, at some point. But it finally launched, and that was actually right around when I got my next job, which was at a digital agency that built websites and other mobile apps. Looking back, I'm so sorry to all the people that I worked with, because if I could go back in time and do it all over again, it would have gone so much smoother, at least I think so. And there are probably so many delays that I personally could have avoided, and conversations and things that I could have done differently. But you know what? Everyone messes up. Everyone has to start somewhere. And honestly, the only reason I'm telling you this story is because I just want to say, not everyone becomes or starts as an all-star or someone who knows what they're doing. Clearly, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm sure people were talking all sorts of trash behind my back because, I really deserved it at the time. I hope that almost serves as encouragement for people who feel like they're just starting to get a handle on this whole world, this world of working, being an adult, working in tech, working on a project, understanding what some of these words and phrases and acronyms mean. It's totally okay to feel lost, and it's totally okay to start somewhere. But all that to say, don't settle and always be willing to learn and constantly grow. When I went to that next job at the agency, it was very much a very similar story, but I was surrounded by a lot of really great people, a lot of really great mentors, and people who gave me tons of opportunity to learn and grow. So for that, I'll eternally be grateful for the people that gave me that opportunity, for the people that were patient with me, and the people that taught me. I will say I also did work really hard, and those are the days where I'd be constantly working 50, 60, sometimes even 90 hours a week. And frankly, that really sucks, and that sucked a lot at the time. I was in my early to mid 20s, so it was fine. I had no responsibility. I had nowhere to really be except for trying to have fun and do other stuff like that. But it really did help lay the foundation, I think, for who I am today and for a lot of the lessons I learned, a lot of the professional things and development that I went through. I'm not sure if I would ever recommend it for anybody, but I know a lot of people pay their dues when they're in their early 20s, in their first and second jobs. And for me, I wouldn't take back that experience. I personally find it very helpful, and maybe this isn't something that I would want to do today or in the future, but it did teach me a lot about myself and a lot of what I didn't want in a job in some ways. That said, at this role, because of the people around me, because of the great teams that I work with, I was always someone who liked to ask a lot of questions. I'm not great at building stuff or being handy or anything like that, and that's why I'm not an engineer, but I did want to understand how things worked. So I was always looking to learn, understand the processes, understand the tools and how different team members did things, how something came from a wireframe to a design to actually being developed and tested, and just learning the whole life cycle of everything. And even though I can't code or do any of that stuff, it did allow me to learn a bit about how to speak with different team members, how to speak their language, their terminology, understand some of the pain points that they went through, that they deal with. And all by going through all those things, I think it personally allowed me to become a better project manager, because it's hard to anticipate risk or to flag certain things if you're not really expanding your horizon and knowledge to all the people that you're going to be working with. I remember one project in particular, and this one really stands out in my mind whenever someone asks, like, what was the worst project you ever worked on? There was a project where we had assumed one thing, and in a couple days before the deliverable, we had a chance to speak with the client, with our managers, and we found out that our assumptions were completely off, and now we had to do probably a month's worth of work in less than a week. That was probably one of the hardest weeks of my professional life, and we were working until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., multiple days in a row, and we were all delirious by the end of that week. But we got it done, and obviously none of us enjoyed it at the time, and we were all pretty miserable. But I do think that stands out in a lot of ways, and it prevented a lot of future mess ups. So I say that also to embrace some of these mistakes, but to also learn from them, because if you're never making mistakes, then I would argue that you're doing mediocre work. If you're constantly able to anticipate 100% of all things, you're either Miss Cleo or have some type of psychic powers, or something else. So really, we all make mistakes. It's okay. Embrace them, learn from them, become better through making those mistakes, and definitely share those mistakes with your peers and others. Don't be embarrassed by them. We all screw up from time to time, and by learning from others' mistakes, you don't have to constantly make them yourself. And after that job at the agency, I actually moved to a different agency in New York City. This was actually the first time that I got a job without knowing anyone at the company. I've been referred to the previous two roles that I was in before. I was really nervous about taking this particular job because this was the first time that I was applying to a job without knowing anyone at the company. The previous two jobs that I've had, I've always had some sort of referral or someone who I knew, whether it was someone really that I was close to or someone that I just kind of went to school with or whatever. But this was the first time I went in kind of by myself, alone. And part of the reason why I left that company to begin with, the agency, was because I felt like I kind of hit my ceiling there at that time. I think when you stay at a company, it's always great if you feel like you're constantly learning, you have room to grow, you have room to develop your career and continue to progress there. But sometimes for a multitude of reasons, you kind of hit your limit. It could be because there's only so many growth opportunities, right? They can't promote everyone every single year. Maybe your department just doesn't have a path to continue to grow, or whatever the case might be. And for me at the time, despite loving the people I work with, my bosses, my manager, all that stuff, I still really respect them and speak to a lot of them to this day. I just kind of felt like I had hit that mark, and so it's time for me to go. And I think it was a great move for me. When I went to that company in the city, it was really tough work. I'm not gonna lie. We work with a lot of really cool clients, a lot of cool companies that I was a customer of. Like I've used their services, so it was really neat to kind of see like how everything worked behind the scene. I was doing a lot of the similar type of work, but maybe at a higher level. And through time, I was able to, I think within a year or so, I was able to prove that I was ready to become a senior project manager, and I was promoted. And that was the first time that, I really felt like, I hit a major milestone through my personal hard work and not because of whatever other reason. So I was really proud of that moment, and I'm definitely grateful for my managers who gave me the opportunity to work there and do that work. But it just kind of goes to show you, like, I'm not somebody who has a technical background, who is good at developing or coding or design or anything like that. I mean, honestly, I'm still scared of pivot tables. I'm not really great at Excel or making decks or anything like that. But like, to be a great project manager, you don't necessarily have to have those skills, right? If you're able to keep a project organized, keep a project on budget, on track, work with the client, speak with your team, inspire your team, do all those things, I think that's really what makes a really solid project manager. I actually have a great video where I talk a bit about some of the soft skills and the different skills that a good PM has. So if you want, you can check that out. But I do think that is what's frankly more important, and where I personally feel like provides a lot more value on a project. This time, or the time that I had at this company was awesome. It took a lot of energy to continue to learn. The hours were pretty tough because we worked in a really competitive field with really strict demands. So there are times where I was working like pretty regularly, 60 weeks or 60-hour weeks, and eventually that just became a bit too much. So the next couple of years, I worked at different companies, whether it's a nonprofit, consulting. I worked consulting for pharma and doing a lot of other stuff. And eventually I found my way to where I am now. I started as a program manager, which there's some differences when it comes to a project manager versus a program manager, which I won't go into too much detail today, but a lot of the same skill set. So I was doing a lot of things that I had done, leveraging a lot of the lessons that I had learned from my previous experience. And this year I was promoted to oversee our project management office. So today I'm no longer actively working as a project manager, managing projects firsthand, but I do work very closely with the project managers, and I help oversee the PMO, to make sure that we're prioritizing and working on the right things at the right time with the right people. So it's a bit higher level than the project manager days. But all that to say, I just wanted to share a bit about my journey and how I got to where I am now. It's been about a little over 10 years now of me being in project management. I think it's a great career. Honestly, it's one of the careers that you can easily make six figures fairly quickly without having, any particular degrees or certifications or all that stuff. Obviously people talk about the PMP and ask if that's something that you need. I mean, it really just depends on your employer. Personally, I don't have a PMP. I think a PMP is a great way to learn a lot and maybe get your foot in the door as a new PM. But if you've been a PM for a long time and this is something that you're very familiar with and it's almost second nature, I personally don't think a PMP provides too much value. And this is based on my conversations with those who had gotten it, because obviously I don't have it, so I can't tell you from personal experience. But it's something that I'm considering getting just to have it at some point. But to kind of get to the original point of this being a great career, like I said, it's something that a lot of people can get into. I think you need to be a specific type of person. You don't necessarily have to be an extrovert. I'm very introverted myself personally, but I can flex some of those extroverted tendencies or skills or whatever, because you still do need to be a good communicator to be a PM. But yeah, I mean, if it's something that you're interested in, I have a bunch of videos. I'll continue to make these videos because it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I think this is just a great way for people who might not be familiar with the tech world, with this just management world, someone who might be working a blue-collar job right now, get into the more 9-to-5 type environment. So highly recommend it. I'll continue to make more resources for you. If you're interested, please subscribe, watch, like, comment on those videos, and I'm definitely open and willing to talk about whatever topics people might be interested in. I will say, in my time as a project manager, I've worked with people who were car salesmen, people who were contractors, in their previous careers, and they were able to, make that career change in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 20s, to project management. So definitely something to consider. There's tons of free resources out there. There's also tons of great certifications, whether that's getting your certified Scrum Master, obviously the PMP that we talked about. There's and so many other certifications that you can easily get. I would say you don't necessarily need them, once again, to become a PM. If anything, just getting your foot in the door as a project coordinator or as like a junior project manager, if you can find that opportunity, would be, a much better, honestly, a better firsthand experience, like just a better way to learn, in my personal opinion. But if those are routes that are available to you, if there are discounted ways for you to get those certifications and take those courses, by all means do it. It'll definitely help. You can definitely read the PM Book of Knowledge, the PMBOK, just to kind of get a sense to see if it's something you're interested in. But consider project management. It's once again an amazing, great career opportunity, and it opens the door for program management, product management, and also all sorts of other roles within a company. So that's a bit about myself, a bit about my journey. Hopefully that inspired you to pick up on this, to explore this further. And if it has, let me know. If you have any questions or anything else that you want me to talk about, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. So until then, as always, be kind, do good. Thanks.